Hello, people. Andrew here, talking about comics from a reader, collector, speculator, investor point of view, in that order of importance to myself. And today I'm going back to the Fantastic Four, volume number 3, part 2. And we're going to be looking at the run from October of 2002 till March of 2008. Starts off with issue number 60, a 9-cent issue, and a new creative team, Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo. They ran for 36 issues, their term was. And this first issue was only 9 cents. With the idea, I'm sure, is that, how can you not afford 9 cents? It's less than the price that it was for buying a comic book in the Golden Age. And it gives you a chance to take a look at the Fantastic Four if you've never looked at them before at a really, almost free, very, very cheap cost. So it's an introductory, sort of like time to get on board with Fantastic Four. This is a good place to start. So, is it a good place to start? Well, Mark Waid has he sets it out in the very first issue, sort of the idea where he's going. When asked if they're a superhero team or not, Reed Richards responds, "No, it's not. I don't consider us superheroes. We're Imaginauts." I don't particularly care for that term, Imaginauts. When I think of that, I think of Willy Wonka. Fantastic Four, I think more of explorers and adventurers, and dare I say, challengers of the unknown. So, Imaginauts doesn't quite fit. And does the 36 issues sort of encapsulate the Imaginaut? I don't think it does. It doesn't really bring that to bear. But then on the other hand, it's not really, exploring and adventuring either. It is a very good character study. I think the development of all of the characters is very good, and their tone and their attitude, and why Reed Richards does what he does. That's explained here in the first issue, and why the rest of the team goes along with his lead, which is at the bookend at the last issue. And in between, you get to see why this is or how it operates. Does that mean that there are no threats or adventures? No, there's plenty of threats and adventures. Most of them are not of their making, but they are up to the challenge and have to deal with certain situations. Not much in the way of supervillains, although Doctor Doom does make an appearance in this run, and it is one of the best Doctor Doom stories that have been around for a long time. As far as, if I was to recommend reading, I would definitely recommend all of the Doctor Doom series, Unthinkable, which is a 5-issue series, or arc, I should say. Even if you're not a Fantastic Four fan, I would recommend it. So, would I recommend a whole read thing? It's a good place to start. If you haven't read the Fantastic Four in many years, or at all, it's a good place to start as far as, the stories are well written, and Mike Wieringo's artwork is great, and you do get an understanding of the characters. Johnny Storm does have a development of his character, and I only bring it up because I did not like the way that Chris Claremont did 180 degrees on Johnny's personality, and here I find with Mark Waid, he's moving. He wants to move that needle a bit so that he's not just so spontaneous and frivolous, but he does it gradually, and it makes it more believable, if you can call a work of fiction, believable, for him to make these responsible changes. So I did like the approach to the characterization, and they have some different things that they do that involved in their characters. There are some different story arcs. I didn't like all of the story arcs. In fact, there's one that I really detest, but beyond that, I do think it was a decent enough read and a good place to start if you've never read the Fantastic Four before. If you have read the Fantastic Four, you'll be reading this regardless. And if you just want a casual sort of, it's decent enough. It's not necessarily a run that I would say, hey, you've got to read this. I would say that about the Doom stories, but it's not bad in itself. So here you got your 9-cent issue. You've time to come on board for only 9 cents. And if I was a comic book store, I would be handing those things out for free. This is the beginning of the Unthinkable line that began, I can't even recall the issue. But I will point out one thing about this is a couple of things. Is one is that you've got your legacy numbering. So 67, issue 67, volume 3, but it's also got the legacy numbering beside it by 496. So it's because we're approaching issue number 500. So in this particular run, once we get up to where it would be issue number 500, we start renumbering things as 500 and 501, 502. That's part of what the legacy numbering is all about. Whenever there's an event or a major event anniversary for a particular comic book, legacy numbering is sure to make an appearance again. It's not consistent moving forward. There are times when books just don't have the legacy numbering at all, and even moving forward, Fantastic Four is not the worst of the bunch, but there's so many volumes of things. I think the Punisher, for example, is up to like 12 or 13 volumes of the Punisher. So that's 12 or 13 issue number 1s, 2s, 3s. Without the legacy numbering, it's not always easy to tell where you are in the run. So anyways, so this is the first part of the Unthinkable, the Doctor Doom story. The single best issue in Mark Waid's run, to me, is this prologue book of Unthinkable. A really very deep character study of Doctor Doom, and illustrates the menace that he brings to the table. So this one alone is a recommended read. But as I say, I would read the whole Doctor Doom Unthinkable storyline. I thought it was very good, and that's not much more I can say to about that. As far as any of these books being speculator or collector type, I mean, there's certain things that you would do for collectors if you're not just collecting the Fantastic Four. You could be collecting it for the artwork. You could be collecting it because there are a few appearances of characters such as Doctor Doom. And we'll see that there's a Spider-Man in there, etc. So there are some of those sort of situations that come up for different collections. But there's really nothing here for speculating or investing on. It's strictly just Fantastic Four storylines without any radically new characters or developments that warrant that kind of speculation or investment attention. This is issue number 500, and it comes in multiple forms. This is just, they haven't quite gotten into the whole variant cover. That happens a little bit later in about 2008 or something. That's really takes off the whole variant cover things. But there are multiple covers of issue number 500. This is the foil one. I don't think you can see it too well. Oh, there's a little bit of the foil. And there's a regular one, and there's some other little extras in the foil issue of 500. So for those collecting, books of gimmick books, if you want to call them that, or special books, this would be one of those Fantastic Four 500. Once again, the Doom storyline, great. There are guest stars that show up throughout. Here we got Spider-Man and the Human Torch. It's always been a fun team up between the two of them, and there's 2 issues of this one and the next. So there's the Spider-Man for those that collect that. They were around for the Disassembled line. Now, the Disassembled storyline, I think it's strongest in the Avengers, and that's really where it takes place, is in the Avengers. This is sort of the fallout of that event and how the Fantastic Four are now called upon to react to certain situations because the Avengers are no longer a functioning team. That's their aspect of the Disassembled. Many of the titles that were under that Disassembled banner, they came to an end. Thor, Captain America, the Avengers, and then were rebooted. But that's not the case of the Fantastic Four. They went through the Disassembled storyline, but then continued on. There is a Galactus story in here as well. But as I say, Galactus isn't really a villain, and by this point he's established he's more of a force of nature. What his nature is, why he does what he does, I think there's been attempts to explain, but basically, he does what he does to survive, and that's not villainous. It's, when he picks on the world, then it seems like he's the villain, but ultimately he's just doing what he has to do to survive, so more of a force of nature. Galactus is, fairly prevalent character within the Marvel Universe, and he makes an appearance here in Mark Waid's run. As I say, it all comes roundabout at the end here with, what are we up to? Issue number 524. The Fantastic Four comes to an end for, well, not to an end, but Mark Waid's term comes to an end. And as I said, he sort of bookends it with the 9-cent issue in this one as to the reasons why the Fantastic Four do what they do. Again, I didn't find them at all to be what I would call imaginauts, and the exploration, not so much, but a good character study and good reactions and actions towards various threats to both themselves as a team and to the city and world at large. Just to note, the one story arc that I didn't like, because I know I mentioned that, is their trip to heaven. It didn't work for me. So a couple of fill-in issues by Carl Kessel, and then we get to J. Michael Straczynski and Mike McComb, starting with issue 527, and they take over for a very short run. What does it go to from July 2005 to November 2006? A different tone than Mark Waid's. I found it to be more introspective. We're starting to examine the characters individually and their points of view and some of their thought patterns while adventures are going on. The first story arc, for example, focused on Reed Richards, and the second one focuses more on the Thing. And I thought it was good. I thought the first one drifted into pseudoscience blibbity-blab by the end, and I wasn't interested in that. Some people might like that kind of an explanation for science that doesn't exist, but sometimes it doesn't work, and it didn't work for me. So he takes over for this short period of time. I did like the second arc with the Thing and the Hulk, and they've been around and they've been battling themselves, or not, each other for years and years, all the way going back to what I think it's issue number 12 when they first met, I think. So it's, a long-standing battle, and how much more can you do with it? And I liked what they did with this, as again, it was more of an introspective. It was almost a Hulk story more so than a Thing story, but he's important to the development of the 3-issue block. And I actually like this one very much. And then here's the thing. I mean, they were launching into the Civil War situation, and I wonder. I mean, because J. Michael Straczynski is a fine writer. It's just, his term comes to a very abrupt end. He doesn't even finish the whole Civil War run. There's a whole bunch of books here, and he doesn't even write the last 2 of them. And I gotta wonder, is it because this was not the direction that he wanted to go? He wanted to write a Fantastic Four story, and he was heading off in a particular introspective direction. But Civil War comes along and interrupts all of that and changes the dynamics of the team. It's no longer the same team by the end of the Civil War or during the Civil War that it was when he started writing. So either, I don't know, did his contract extend and said, I don't care to write anymore? Or did they say, no, we're finding a new writer? Or was it so? But his term is short, and he doesn't even finish off all the Civil War tie-in books for the Fantastic Four. As far as the Civil War tie-in books for the Fantastic Four, are they worth a read for the Civil War? They do have merit. Reed Richards is a fairly important character within that Civil War series, a 7-issue series, and what goes on behind the scenes in his mind and in the minds of his teammates is reflected in these books based on the Civil War in the Fantastic Four. I read one review and said that it wasn't so interested in the final one, or close to the end, when there's just a story about the Thing taking a sabbatical in France. And I can get behind that. That's not necessary for the Civil War tie-in type of thing, but it's interesting just to see what the Thing was doing at the time. But for the most part, these books will certainly add to the storyline for the Civil War. And it goes on for a number of issues where the Fantastic Four and the Civil War, because I don't want to spoil it for you, but I mean, it was a decent run. You get a Doom cover and don't believe everything you see. So I did do a video on the Civil War, and part of the reason that I did the Civil War video earlier was because I know that so many books tied into it. And they had this nice banner type of situation. So understanding the Civil War certainly helps put these in a timeline and in a perspective as well. Yeah, so the team sort of splits up because they take different approaches and different attitudes towards what's going on in the Civil War. And for those that don't know, it's the Superheroes Registration Act, whereas one side, led by Tony Stark, says, yes, you have to sign up by the law, register who you are, reveal your identity, and become a tool for the government. Whereas the Captain America side says, no, I believe more in free will and keeping your identity secret if that's to protect your loved ones, and you shouldn't be forced to work for in a military capacity for the government. So that's where the Civil War breaks up. And the Fantastic Four, they kind of divide, which is made evident by this particular cover here. Reed and Sue take different sides of the arguments. Reed is pro Tony Stark, and Sue is pro Captain America, and the thing is somewhat of what do you call it, a bystander. Like Switzerland doesn't take a particular stand. He's waiting how all things fall out. So that was the last Straczynski issue. As I say, it was part of the Civil War, and why he left, I cannot say for certain, but he left after issue number 541 to be replaced by Dwayne McDuffie. And Dwayne McDuffie's run ran from 542 all the way to what I have it written down here somewhere, 553. Yes, 553. Okay, so the last couple of issues of the Civil War, we're winding it down. And then we have the epilogue, which is a giant-sized book to celebrate the 45th anniversary of the Fantastic Four. It's not all smiles and chuckles, but you get the idea. So with Reed and Sue taking off to try and repair things, a new team is brought into effect, and this involves the Black Panther and Storm. So here is your new team, and here's a new banner called The Initiative, which is something that followed the Civil War. And there's a number of books, I don't know, 6 or 7 of these books from the Fantastic Four that have the Initiative banner across the top, but it has almost nothing to do with the Initiative during this run of the Fantastic Four. Okay, so Dwayne McDuffie's run, and it runs from, as I said, from 542 to 553. So it's not a long run, and I don't like it. And there are reasons why I don't like it. Okay, so I could spend like a long time discussing, but just in point form. Number 1, Black Panther. Now, the Black Panther that I was hoping for was the athletic, agile, hand-to-hand character, strong on stamina, endurance, stealth. Instead, I got the super scientist, engineer, person that deals with all of his gadgets and toys. So I wasn't happy about that. So that's the Black Panther you're going to give me. Okay, so that's the one we got. As I said, I would have preferred the Tom McGregor one or whatever, but here's the Black Panther we got. Number 2 is the accelerated time, and by that I mean. I get that in science and science fiction books, in the comic book world, certain things happen that don't happen. For example, so they got to go to the moon, and they're at the moon. Look at that. Oh, wait, they want to go further than the moon. They want to go to the moon around Saturn. They want to go to Titan. How long is that going to take? Oh, we're there. Oh, so next we got to fix this weapon that we've never seen before, and we're not sure about what it does. But if we don't fix it now, things are going to go really bad, and the world's going to come to an end. How long is that going to take? Oh, we're done. Oh, we need to summon the Silver Surfer, and he's throughout the entire cosmos. He could be anywhere, but we need him right now, or things are going to come to an end. There he is. So the acceleration of time really bothered me about this run. It just, so when the end result comes, oh well, if we don't do this now, all the world will end. I don't believe you. Like, you got all the time in the world, because your time means nothing to you. So I wasn't impressed with the time itself. And as far as the storylines are concerned, they were just really end of the world type of stuff that I didn't buy into. Some of the ideas weren't bad. The idea that eternity, the physical embodiment of eternity, contracted a disease that needs to be cut out of it, I kind of liked that concept, but I didn't like the execution. Point three or four, I suppose, is the humor. Humor is very subjective. What makes me laugh may not make you laugh, and vice versa. And I find that Dwayne McDuffie's material in here, I couldn't tell. Are you trying to do a parody of some of the standard things that have happened within the comic book world or with some of these characters? Is this sort of like a verbal slapstick? Are you trying to do some witty remarks and one-liners? To ease some of the tension. It did not work. The humor in this book did not work for me. So on all kinds of fronts, I didn't enjoy this run, and I would not recommend this run. Speaking of recommend, would I recommend the Straczynski? It was so short. It's not a bad run. He's a good writer, but there was the Hulk storyline and the Civil War stuff, so it's not a bad read. I think it works for if you're interested in the Civil War part of Marvel history. I think the books from the Fantastic Four do complement that. One of the things about the Straczynski run, not the Straczynski, I should say the Duffy run, is that there were a number of Michael Turner covers. This is just one of them. Again, with the Initiative banner, it has nothing to do with the Initiative. Michael Turner did a number of covers for this particular run, so if you're a collector, you may be seeking out that material for his artwork. I also noticed that there's the trend has begun to feature just the characters of the particular comic book on the cover. No indication of who they're fighting or battling or what the story is about. It's just, in this case, a group shot, but if it's an individual, it'll be like an individual shot. So there's less to tell you about what's going on inside the book. And this is go through a Fantastic Four in the last 20 issues. A great number of covers just have the four of them in various poses. And I know people like to see the picture of the group itself and an interpretation, but I prefer when there is something happening on the cover to indicate the story that's happening, in the pages beyond the cover. Thankfully, McDuffie's run is short and comes to an end. What is it? Issue number 553. And honestly, I didn't care for it, and I wouldn't recommend it. So, of all of the three that I've looked at, I think the Mark Waid is good if you're being introduced to the Fantastic Four. I think the Doctor Doom storyline should be read, period, regardless of whether you're a Fantastic Four fan or not. The J. Michael Straczynski stuff is interesting. The Hulk is an interesting read. And the Civil War, if you're interested in the Civil War, that's interesting as well. So it's a shame that he didn't get a chance to do a little bit more, but it was a decent enough read. And as for the Dwayne McDuffie stuff, it didn't work for me at all, which is a shame because I would have liked to have seen a team involved with the Thing, the Human Torch, Black Panther, and Storm. It just wasn't the combination that I was hoping for. As far as anything to do with speculation or investment, not here. Not during this run. There's no new characters, no new story developments. The fact that, the Black Panther and Storm joined the Fantastic Four, that doesn't seem to make any kind of ripples within the market itself. Even the Michael Turner covers, he's done a lot of covers, and there's nothing that's particular that stands out and says this is the best Michael Turner cover ever. There is some good artwork in here, but there's nothing to really stand out as either a speculation or an investment. So that's what I got to say about this part of the Fantastic Four Volume 3, Part 2. I will have to do a Part 3. I was going to do it all in one shot, but these are already so long, these videos. I had to break it down yet again. So here we are. That's the, as I say, the end of Fantastic Four, Volume 3, Part 2. And I will be seeing you again. And as always, take care of yourself and take care of others. See you.